I prepared to have a very long conversation with you about many other matters,
Yes.
and then the highest court in our land just made a decision today on affirmative action, and I feel compelled to speak about it. And I'm sure that I share the sentiment and the feeling of everyone in this room in terms of the deep disappointment. I encourage everyone, by the way, to read the dissenting opinion of Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Mm-hmm. I encourage you to read it because she is a beautiful writer who is compelled by logic and a knowledge of history and a clarity of thinking about where we have been in as a country and where we have the potential to go. Mm-hmm. And what she so rightly has articulated, as I take away from her writing and the way I feel about it, is the disappointment is because this is now a moment where the court has not fully understand the importance of equal opportunity for the people of our country. And it is in so very many ways a denial of opportunity. And it is a complete misnomer to suggest this is about colorblind, when in fact it is about being blind to history, being blind to data, being blind to empirical evidence about disparities, being blind to the strength that diversity brings to classrooms, right, to boardrooms.
That's right.
So I did, Tashonda, I thank you for giving me this moment to just speak on that. And I think that there is no question we have so much work to do. And the president spoke so eloquently earlier today about this. Our administration will use all the tools in our power to continue to applaud policies that understand the importance and the significance and the strength of diversity in all of those places. And one of the points that the president also made is the point of encouraging our educational institutions to now be very purposeful in thinking about how they will prioritize the importance of diversity, including looking at students' backgrounds in terms of access to financial strength and benefits, where they went to high school, where they grew up. Mm-hmm. And also the president, I thought, was very clear about saying to corporate America mm-hmm. that we would expect that this decision will not in any way cloud their judgment about the importance of diversity in the workplace.
Absolutely.
We stand together as a civil rights community. We stand together as community leaders representing community who have fought for the recognition that today's America has still not lived up to the ideals we deeply share as Americans. An ideal that says we must have opportunity to learn, freedom to learn our history, freedom to read books by Pulitzer Prize-winning authors, even when they challenge and make some people uncomfortable. That we are in a country today where we are still struggling to have a fair right to vote. And when we talk about educational opportunity, when we talk about whether and how we create more opportunities for every single American without regard to where they live, without regard to how many resources they have, and without regard to the color of their skin, and our long-standing history of throwing up barriers in the face of too many of our communities because of how we look, because of our languages, our nations of origin, despite our contributions. We are a society that wants a country where what we look like does not impede our opportunity, and we do not yet live in it. And that is why we are going to continue to fight together and unify and not let those who try to pit our communities against one another to succeed.
Even this court has cognized that colleges and universities
may still ask students about what we call their racialized experience, or put a different way, ask students about their identity, their full path, the full arc of all that they bring to the table, their whole selves. And you know what we're going to do? We will continue to encourage students to do the same. We will force the issue, because no matter what this ruling says, we have to be clear that affirmative action is a tool, but the prize is racial equity, racial justice, and opportunity for all, especially those who have been historically marginalized. No matter what this court says, we will continue to fight. No matter what this court says, nothing can deprive us of what we call our race-conscious future.
What happened today is that the court made it more difficult for us to tap into, leverage that strength to make us safer, to make us stronger, to make us become a more perfect union. The court did that. The court undermined that ability. A court that has, for over 45 years, affirmed affirmative action, has said that it is lawful, that it is consonant with the Equal Protection Clause. The only thing that has changed in those 45 years is the composition of that court. It is now a conservative majority that dictates the policy making that is coming out of that court. And today's decision in the University of North Carolina and Harvard admissions policies is a demonstration of how far afield the court has gone.
You know, we call upon the universities themselves to continue to engage in substantial outreach in recruitment of underserved students in underserved communities all across the country. They can do that previously, and they should continue to do that. Nothing in this opinion prohibits that.
Yes, this is a dark day for democracy and for equality. And to make the presumption that today, in 2023, that our country is colorblind is incorrect. That is not the norm for people in America today. And I've been in contact with our SUNY Chancellor, John King, who will be assessing their policies, but assures us that they'll be considering many factors to understand that diversity is an important part of who we are. We celebrate this in the state of New York. We want to make sure that our educational institutions, the ladder to opportunity for millions of New Yorkers remains open to all. So we are very disappointed in this decision, not unexpected given the political composition of the Supreme Court today. But that being said, we go forth recommitted to ensuring that New York remains a place where we celebrate diversity, inclusion, and we're going to continue to subscribe to those principles regardless of the decisions made by the Supreme Court of the United States.
The opinion issued today by the United States Supreme Court marks the beginning of the restoration of the colorblind legal covenant that binds together our multiracial, multi-ethnic nation. The polarizing, stigmatizing, and unfair jurisprudence that allowed colleges and universities to use a student's race and ethnicity as a factor to either admit them or reject them has been overruled. These discriminatory admissions practices undermined the integrity of our civil rights laws. Ending racial preferences in college admissions is an outcome that the vast majority of all Americans of all races will celebrate. A university doesn't have real diversity when it simply assembles students who look different but come from similar backgrounds and talk and act and think alike. The elimination of these preferences is long overdue, and SFFA hopes these opinions will compel higher education institutions to end these practices. Looking ahead at the upcoming admissions cycle, SFFA and its council have been closely monitoring the changes in admissions procedures should the court reach a decision like the one today. We remain vigilant and intend to initiate litigation should universities defiantly flout this clear ruling and the dictates of Title VI and the Equal Protection Clause.
For so long, Asian Americans have strived for acceptance and recognition, for our contributions to building a foundation of this country to be acknowledged, and for us to take up our rightful place within the society. Today's decision has started a new chapter in the saga of the history of Asian Americans in this country. It marks the promise of a new beginning, a resurgence of the principles of the American dream, and a return to the egalitarian principles for all in this shining city on a hill. I firmly believe that diversity is very important for education. The future leaders of America need to have representation across all backgrounds of the society. This is why, as I mentioned in my previous speech, affirmative action is a well-intentioned idea that is poorly executed. It is my hope to see a renewed college admission system that recognizes and rewards the multifaceted talents and diverse perspective that each individual can bring to the table. Together, let us embark on this transformative journey towards a fair, more inclusive educational landscape where the potential of our nation's youth knows no bounds.
So since his first days in office, the president has demonstrated his commitment to diversity, creating a government that looks like America, a commitment that extends to the highest levels of his cabinet and the highest court in the land. For months, the White House has been meeting with civil rights organizations, universities, and legal organizations to prepare for this decision in the event that the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action. Stakeholders shared with us that they would need guidance on what this ruling would mean, and they would need it before the start of the admission cycle to avoid confusion. The White House, led by the DPC, the Office of Public Engagement, and Counsel's Office, worked over the last few months with DOJ and Ed to develop a response plan. Throughout the process, the president was clear with his team that diversity was one of America's greatest strengths, that we needed to make sure that this decision wouldn't be a permanent step back for the country, and we would need a way forward to protect diversity and opportunity in America for everyone. The president met regularly with his team over the last month to gear up a response that encourages colleges and universities to recognize when a student has had to overcome systemic barriers and inequities, and value that in the admissions process. This morning, when the decision came down, the president was briefed by counsel, then convened a meeting with members of his senior staff closely working on this issue. The president directed his team to finalize our plan to support colleges and universities before the admission process starts. The White House has directed the Department of Ed to analyze what other practices and tools exist to help build more inclusive and diverse student bodies. The Department of Ed, and also let's not forget the Department of Justice as well, will provide resources to colleges and universities addressing lawful admissions practices within the next 45 days. As colleges prepare for the next application cycle, so that's kind of about that time. The Department of Education will also provide assistance to colleges and universities in administering programs to support students from underserved communities. And also, in addition, the Department of Education will host a national summit that's going to be focused on equal opportunity in post-secondary education. That's going to happen next month, and that's going to be with advocates, student leaders, college and university administrators, researchers, and state, local, and let's not forget the tribal community as well, those leaders, to share lessons learned, innovative strategies, and develop additional resources for colleges and students to expand to educational opportunities. So this is going to be a summer, as you all can imagine, a summer-long process to make sure that the colleges and universities feel prepared and ready and have the resources they need as we head into the next academic year.
Today, the court once again walked away from decades of precedent and as the dissent has made clear. The dissent states in today's decision, quote, rolls back decades of precedent and momentous progress, end of quote. I agree with that statement from the dissent. The court has effectively ended affirmative action in college admissions, and I strongly disagree with the court's decision. Just as a few years ago in 2016, The court has affirmed and reaffirmed this view. Many people wrongly believe that affirmative action allows unqualified students to be admitted ahead of qualified students. This is not how college admissions work. Rather, colleges set out standards for admission, and every student has to meet those standards. Then and only then, after first meeting the qualifications required by the school, do colleges look at other factors in addition to their grades, such as race. The court has effectively ended affirmative action in college admissions, and I strongly disagree with the court's decision. Well, I've always believed that one of the greatest strengths of America, you're tired of hearing me say it, is our diversity, but I believe that. If you have any doubt about this, just look at the United States military, the finest fighting force in the history of the world. It's been a model of diversity, and has not only made our nation better, stronger, but safer. I believe the same is true for our schools. I've always believed that the promise of America is big enough for everyone to succeed, and that every generation of Americans, we have benefited by opening the doors of opportunity just a little bit wider to include those who've been left behind. I believe our colleges are stronger when they are racially diverse. Our nation is stronger because we are tapping into the full range of talent in this nation. If you have any doubt about this, just look at the United States military, the finest fighting force in the history of the world. It's been a model of diversity. We cannot let this decision be the last word. I want to emphasize, we cannot let this decision be the last word. While the court can render a decision, it cannot change what America stands for. America is an idea unique in the world, an idea of hope and opportunity, of possibilities, of giving everyone a fair shot, of leaving no one behind. We've never fully lived up to it, but we've never walked away from it either. We will not walk away from it now. We should never allow the country to walk away from the dream upon which it was founded. That opportunity is for everyone, not just a few. We need a new path forward, a path consistent with the law that protects diversity and expands opportunity. We will not walk away from it now. We should never allow the country to walk away from the dream upon which it was founded. They should not abandon, let me say this again, they should not abandon their commitment to ensure student bodies of diverse backgrounds and experience that reflect all of America. What I propose for consideration is a new standard, where colleges take into account the adversity a student has overcome when selecting among qualified applicants. Let's be clear, under this new standard, just as was true under the earlier standard, students first have to be qualified applicants. We need to keep an open door of opportunities. We need to remember that diversity is our strength. We have to find a way forward. We need to remember that the promise of America is big enough for everyone to succeed. Because the truth is, we all know it, discrimination still exists in America. Discrimination still exists in America. Discrimination still exists in America. Today's decision does not change that. It's a simple fact. If a student had to overcome adversity on their path to education, the college should recognize and value that. But we're not going to let this break us. Thank you.
President Biden, the Congressional Black Caucus said the Supreme Court has thrown into question its own legitimacy. Is this a rogue court?
This is not a normal court.
Today, the Supreme Court got it wrong. While pretending to faithfully apply existing legal standards, the court essentially engaged in mental gymnastics and twisted the law into a pretzel that defies all reason, all history, all logic. This court is telling us that diversity still matters, but its holding today doesn't actually comport with that reality. Now, let's be clear about how we got to this point. Well, this is a moment not to say, woe is us. This is a moment, frankly, for all hands to be on deck. This is an all-of-society moment, not just individual activists, but any person of good conscience. Policymakers, higher education leaders, business leaders. We have to come together and speak in one voice to say that we're going to keep our eyes on the prize. Affirmative action is just a tool. The prize is racial equity, racial justice, and opportunity for everyone. And until we have that, we will not rest. Today's decision means not the end of all possibility, but a much more difficult path. The court clearly did not affirm prior precedent, but it didn't wholesale overrule it either. The court essentially underruled precedent by twisting it up into a knot and making it much more difficult to understand and certainly to apply. There is certainly a path forward, and we think the path forward includes flooding the market by forcing the issue. The court said that universities can still ask students about their racialized experiences and their identity. We think universities should definitely do that. In fact, we encourage all students to talk about your identity loud and proud in your applications, on campus, and through all means. Let them know who the full person is, because we believe in the long run that cannot be denied.
So, have you been here before?
I think that affirmative action at Harvard is very important. I think that race is a very important factor into admitting students into Harvard or into any school for that matter. And I strongly believe that because I feel like marginalized communities such as like different races, I feel like race plays a really big factor in like poverty, and I think that students who come from like backgrounds like mine, for example, I'm from Wareham, Massachusetts, and it's like a small town. Schools with like underfunded high schools and stuff tend to have more students that happen to be minorities, and I think that those students deserve to have a chance at getting into a school like Harvard by having their race be considered in the application process.
I'm infuriated and speechless. This is just racism. It's just racism with a very thin veil. I don't have the words right now, and I'm trying to think of things that I could do, but I feel very powerless. I feel very speechless. This is so disenfranchising. The fact that the makeup of Harvard's classes can be so many legacy admits, and now we're disenfranchising people who absolutely deserve the chance to get into the school and replacing those spots with people who absolutely do not, but are the children of rich people. And the fact that we're increasing that effect even more is just so infuriating. No, there's going to be a lot of people arguing that no, it's not racist, it's fair, there's nothing fair about it. I'm mad and speechless is mainly my reaction.
It feels like the court has been within a sort of trend of taking rights away lately. And it sort of feels like this may be another one of those types of blows. I've just met so many people from so many different backgrounds, and like, it would just break my heart for people in the future to lose that.
Probably going to have a lot more legacy students, or not even legacy students, but like students who are able to distinguish themselves through their experiences in ways that maybe people who don't have the resources to do that won't be able to do. And that's sort of, I think, what sort of the racial aspect of affirmative action sort of captured, is that ability to distinguish between groups that were able to distinguish themselves in the admissions process and groups that weren't able to, but still reflected, a great amount of effort and drive through worse condition, or worse socioeconomic condition.